Welcome in for another edition of NewOrleans.Football. As always, NewOrleans.Football is presented by PJ's Coffee, the best coffee shop in the land. And if you're going to PJ's, make sure it's in a ride from Matt Bowers Auto Group. They have the new pre-owned center at 3750 Veterans Memorial Boulevard. So make sure you go over there, check them out, and get a ride. Mike, let's roll into our first topic presented by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. Man, when we were putting these topics together and I read over this one, I said, wow, I did not realize all of these guys were this close, kind of to the end in a certain sense of speaking. Yesterday, Cam Jordan Day, he was celebrating in the city, somebody who goes above and beyond for the city
Oh, yeah.
in many different ways. You were there, just kind of talk about that experience and kind of Cam Jordan's career as a whole, and then we'll get into the meat of the topic.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, and then I wrote afterward for the site about, that was such a unique honor. We were all talking about it. The city council names May 8th Cam Jordan Day. I don't think they ever had a Drew Brees Day. I don't know that they've ever done anything like this for a player. But he's been here 14 years and he's been in the community every day, and that's why he gets a special recognition like this that's so deserved. But obviously has come close to winning the NFL's Man of the Year, which also recognizes both aspects of stellar play and stellar community work. But I wrote about what are his Hall of Fame credentials, and he has a case beyond just sacks because he's always been such an every down player, one of the best run stopping defensive ends ever, batting passes, well-rounded player. So it's not just about sacks for him, but to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there is like a clear demarcation line. You have to get to at least these 125 sacks. So he's like 4 shy right now.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, is there room for Cam Jordan to get 4 sacks on this team? I know you and Nick in the last show on Wednesday talked about who are going to be the starting defensive linemen on this team in the base 3-4 front when they have 4 on the field. And I wrote about it too as one of the most fascinating position battles. There's just so many guys. So you've got the combination of not knowing exactly what it's going to look like when Brandon Staley puts his units out there. And even if we knew what it was supposed to look like, who gets to play? I mean, the redundancies are crazy. So they bring in Godshaw as the nose tackle. But they already had some other nose tackles in Colin Saunders and John Ridgway and Christian Boyd. And then, all right, who's going to be 3-4 stand-up ends? Well, that could be Brian Brzee. That could be Nathan Shepard. That could be Cam Jordan. But then they also sign a veteran 3-4 stand-up end in Jonah Williams. And then they go and use the 71st pick in the draft on Vernon Broughton. And they've got Chase Young back and Carl Granderson back at the ends. And then they go and sign Chris Rumpf, who's also an end, who's played for Brandon Staley before, and they draft in the 7th round. I mean, it's just so many guys that I have trouble figuring what Cam Jordan's role is going to be on this team. I don't know if it'll be closer to the lost in the shuffle we saw in the first half of last year or closer to the renaissance we saw in the second half last year when Dennis Allen was fired and they switched from Todd Grantham to Brian Young as the defensive line coach. All 4 of his sacks last year came after that. To use Nick's term, when you guys had the conversation the other day, he showed he still has some gas left in the tank. I believe there's gas left in the tank. I believe he wants another 10 sacks to cement his Hall of Fame candidacy. He chose to stay here at a reduced rate. He wants to be a part of this team. I'm sure he had conversations with Brandon Staley about how he fits. But the where he fits is really tough. How do all these guys play for this team?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think that'll be the good lead-in into the topic of, is this the last hurrah for Saints players over 30?
Yeah.
And, he's the second person on this list because Demario is older, but let's just go with Cam. Where does he fit right now? He's 35 years old. They bought new bodies in that same resurgence from last season. I'm not saying he can't duplicate that. I hope he does, but there are new pieces in here, a new defensive scheme. Where does he fit?
Yeah, I mean, when it became clear that Brandon Staley was going to bring in a 3-4 defense, and again, we can't overemphasize that. They're only going to be in a 3-4 front on rundowns, which is what 20% of the time where they're like, all right, they got their big alignment out there. and then they're going to be in nickel or dime most of the time, and they're going to probably have a 4-2 front that's going to look similar to what we've seen over the years. So when this first happened and Cam Jordan decided to stay and he made the announcement, Hudak coming back for year 15 levels, whatever that announcement was, excitedly, I was like, all right, be really curious what him and Brandon Staley talked about, what the vision is for him, because last year he made it clear he did not want to come back if they're just going to move him inside like they did last year. He wants to be able to play on the outside. So is he a 3-4 end in base, or is he a rotational end in 4-man fronts when they go to 4-man fronts? But I figured at least there's room for him. Maybe he could be the third guy. I didn't even mention Isaiah Foskey when I was just listing all the other guys that are in the mix. So is he the third guy, still ahead of Isaiah Foskey, behind Chase Young and Carl Granderson out there? But since then, they've added Jonah Williams, they've added Vernon Broughton, they've added Chris Rumpf. I'm drawing a blank on the 7th round pick's name. I don't expect him to come in and leapfrog Cam Jordan for snaps right away. But gosh, I don't know. I really don't know. It's really hard to project a significant role for Cam Jordan this year.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of outside of the scheme thing, in his importance to the team, he's very important to the team. He's one of the few Saints winners left. Yes. Yeah. He's one of the few Saints winners left. And I say Saints winners because he's been a Saint his entire career. And, it's important to remind these new guys that, are coming up, hey, this team used to win a lot.
Yeah.
So that's definitely important for them to see. And he's seen, kind of different people go in and out. So I think having that wealth of knowledge and experience is very important. But as we continue to go with this topic, Cam isn't the only person that this applies to in terms of, that possibility of, hey, it might have been time to explore different things.
So everybody over the age of 30 on this team, I think, is either already has played their last snap for the Saints, or the clock is really, really ticking. I mean, here's the names on this list. We've got Ryan Ramczyk, who already announced his retirement.
Yeah.
He's only a placeholder on the roster for now. We knew that was coming. Taysom Hill, earlier this offseason, I heard optimism that, he still wanted to play football. They were actually going to tinker with his contract and potentially drop it down by the minimum so that they could buy some time and then revisit what his role is going to be. They actually never ended up touching it because they didn't need to for cap purposes. But the last time, we've asked questions off the record, we haven't heard anything too specific. When Mickey Loomis was asked on the record, he was like, "Oh, it's a major injury he's dealing with." It's, he also hasn't been around. We haven't seen him in the pictures hanging out on the sideline or working out off to the side like we've even seen with Foster Moreau coming off an injury. So, the last information I got was that Taysom Hill wanted to keep pursuing playing football. But I'm really curious to see if he's going to be on this team, if he's going to play a major role in this team. Obviously, the Derek Carr situation, we don't know if he's done playing for the team. The latest reports claiming to know, how he's thinking or whatever is that he wants to avoid surgery and try to play this year. Does that mean for the Saints? Obviously we've talked at length about the mystery there, but not next year. I don't think there's any chance he'll be back next year.
No.
And then the healthy guys, Demario Davis, 36. Funny enough, I think he's going to be the most impactful player of everyone we talk about. He's going to play the most snaps, and he's going to play probably at the highest level of any of these guys. I'll skip down to Tyrann Mathieu, 32. I guess Tyrann Mathieu probably has the best chance of any one of these guys to still be on the team in 2026.
Yes.
But they just signed Justin Reed, and they just drafted Jonas Sanker, and he took a little bit of a pay cut while staying with the team. And then I was surprised Nathan Shepard stayed this year, and he's part of that logjam that we talked about on the defensive line. And Brandon Cooks, he's probably just a 1-year rental here. So Zach Wood will stay, I think, beyond this season. He's a lifer. But other than that, every single player over 30 on the Saints might not be here 12 months from now.
Yeah. No, at first I didn't even realize Shep was that old. I was like 31. What? But you talked about how Demario is poised to make the biggest impact on the team. And he's the oldest player on this list. Kind of what does that say about his
I
longevity and
mean,
his skill
he's
and ability?
yes, obviously, and look, they just drafted Danny Stutzman early in the 4th round, and maybe he could contend to be a one-day replacement. But I don't think he'll be breathing down Demario's neck for playing time. Look, we're gonna see a drop off with Demario Davis. We've seen it in spurts already, where every once in a while you're like, "Ooh, is this the beginning of the end?" But then he has a good game, and we haven't seen a full drop off, but we're going to. I mean, if you keep playing to age 36, eventually you start to look at least like you're 30. And so we have to be prepared to see that. I'd be really shocked if it got to the point this year where like Demario Davis became a liability, or his playing time was in question, or his starting job was in question. I mean, could injuries finally affect him? He's done such an incredible job of taking care of himself, and we've talked about that. We've explored that in depth. He let us behind the curtain for NOF. So I'm banking on him more than anyone. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu would be the only other person that maybe you'd bet on having a bigger season. My only question with Tyrann is more about what's their vision for him since they've added so many other safeties this year. Could his role diminish in any way? But when Tyrann's out there, he's still super important. And each one of these guys is super important from what you said about their winners. Demario can tell people what it was like to win around here.
Yeah.
Tyrann Mathieu can tell people what it was like to win when he was in Kansas City. Cam Jordan, Taysom Hill, Ryan Ramchek's gone for sure. We could lump Alvin Kamara. He's only 29, but because running back years
enough.
have a ratio, like he might as well be in this group of guys. I bet Alvin has more than 1 year left in him, but man, 1-2 years from now, we're not going to know this roster. We're not going to know it.
Not at all. Hey, and you'd be remiss to leave out Zach Wood. Without him, I don't know how the ball gets snapped.
Yeah.
But let's just go through real quick. We kind of discussed it, but let's just go through real quick, rapid fire names, and you say yes or no for 2026.
2026.
2026. Demario Davis.
I'm actually going to zag here and say yes. He's still on the team in some capacity, because he talked about wanting to outlast LeBron. I think like Cam Jordan, he's probably got a locker and a roster spot for life as long as he wants to keep playing football. And I don't think he's a year away from retiring. So I'll say yes. 2026. Okay.
Cam Jordan.
I hate to bet against Cam, and I know he really is.
Why?
Get to like 8 career sacks. Can they keep the door open for him another year like they did this year? I mean, it might have to be league minimum. Like, hey, man, just let me play however many snaps you got for me. Let me get 2 more sacks.
Right.
50-50. I know that's a cop-out. What about you?
With him, I'm going until he gets to that magic sack number to get into Hall of Fame contention. That's where I'm at with it.
You think he'll play another year and they'll let him stay another year? Unless he gets his 8 this year and retires with glory. If he gets 8 this year, he should come back next year, though.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's going to get 8 this year. I highly doubt that that's going to happen. So I'm going to go with I think he gets his
1 more year
next year.
I could see him going 1 more year and almost like the retirement tour and everyone knowing it's coming. But I'm closer to 50-50 on him.
Yeah, Taysom Hill.
I don't think so. I think if he plays this year, it's his last.
Neither do I. I'm the same way. Derek Carr.
But I think no way next year, and probably not this year. But man, this is one of the bigger mysteries. Yeah, it's the biggest question mark over the team right now. Zach Wood. Yeah, he'll be here next year.
Yeah. Tyrann. Yeah.
I'm going to say no. Again, it's closer to 50-50. But I think with the arrival of Justin Reed and Jonas Sanker, I think Tyrann might have to be prepared to not play an every down role if he wants to keep playing next year. And I don't know if he's played elsewhere before. It's not like this is all he knows, like Cam Jordan. So I'll put that just below the 50-50 line. But he's still going to be playing in the NFL next year, I think.
Okay, I'm on that same wave. Shep.
I think gone.
Okay, yeah. Ramczyk, he's already pretty much gone. And then Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I think this is a 1 year stop, probably.
Do you think this is it? Do you think this is going back to where it all started and finishing it off.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a chance. There's a chance, but how could I bet against him with the longevity he's shown? He's going to need to prove something this year, though. He still made a little money in free agency this year, so the league hasn't moved him down to the you have to play for the league minimum yet. So I bet he's got another year in him on this at least.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think he possibly can. I would venture to say that this is it. I'm not saying that it's going to be a Jarvis Landry, sign the guy, who's well known around here, and then it doesn't materialize into much. But I still feel like this is,
He signed a two-year deal with the Saints, so I'm gonna go back on my
okay.
I'm gonna
You're
go
going back.
back on my guess and say that he plays the 2 years with the Saints. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yep. So let's transition to our next topic. Going into minicamp this weekend, rookie minicamp, we got a chance to, get our first taste of what's going on. And that topic is presented by Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant. Which tryout
Yeah.
are you most excited to see? There were some names on there that are names that's like, oh wow, he's still hanging around, still trying it. Kind of who stands out most to you?
Well, it's funny. The two names on the top of the list, if you look at it in numerical order, 1800 Eckers, 19 Donovan Peoples-Jones,
Yeah,
one young and one old. Deckers is fascinating. So Nick put Hunter Deckers on my radar early in the draft process. He had been hearing some things about him, and he was predicting that he would be a possible target of the Saints in the middle late rounds of the draft if they didn't draft one early. Obviously, they did draft one early, but Deckers was on his way to being a real draft prospect.
yeah,
You watch him play. I think when we see him on the field, we're going to be like, dang. 6'3", 225. He's got a lot of tools. He was at Iowa State, and he gets caught up in this gambling probe that they did, and he got not only kicked out the team, but kicked out of the NCAA. Now, the articles I've read, from reputable places, so I don't know if they're just taking Decker's word for it or, if it's in the court documents, that all he did was place a $15 bet on Iowa State to win in a game he wasn't playing. But he had made like thousands of dollars, like $3,000 worth of bets on his mom's account. Like, I assume a kid just, hey, DraftKings exists now or whatever.
yeah.
And I said that because that was in the court documents, not to just throw one out. But I mean, and he got busted for it. So that is something you can come back from and you can learn from a young mistake. I don't think that poisons him to the NFL well, but it made him have to go to Iowa Western Community College and now come to the Saints for a tryout
Yeah.
instead of even getting an undrafted rookie contract. So he's got a long road back. But, we're going to talk about Jake Haener later in the question of the day. If Derek Carr's not a part of this team, there's room for a fourth quarterback or a young back, not out of the question that there's a practice squad type of place for him if they believe in him.
Yeah, Ben DiNucci, he's already gotten cut. So
Yeah.
that's just continuing to.
And if Carr's injured,
Yeah.
you might want 4 for OTAs and training camp. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely might. The name I'm going to go with is Patrick Jenkins. He's Tulane guy, local guy. It seems like every year they're trying to get, a local guy in here to show what they can do. Last year he had 15 tackles and 4.5 sacks. So maybe if he shows out, he'll get a camp invite, continue to stick around. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Nothing set in stone yet with any of these guys, kind of.
Yeah, Peoples-Jones we could expand on too.
Yeah.
Fits the mold of what the Saints don't have at receiver. I actually wouldn't be shocked at all. Like, I mean, we've been wondering if they're going to sign Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
But if they're not, and obviously they haven't to this point, even though Kellen Moore is very familiar with him, Peoples-Jones is the type of receiver we're talking about, and he's a very experienced one. Just 2 years ago, he had over 800 yards with, I'm going to look up all his career stats with the Browns, 6'2", 204. I believe he was kind of a big red zone target for them. Was he
That would be welcomed with open arms down here.
He wasn't a huge red zone target with him. Only 3. It was 8 over 3 seasons, not 8 in 1 year. But he had 61 catches for 839 yards for them. And then last year it was kind of surprising, or in 23 it was kind of surprising that his production really dropped off and got traded to Detroit late in the year, and then last year didn't even make Detroit's roster and spent the whole year on the practice squad. So obviously not a sure thing, but for guys like him, it's about opportunity, and there's an opportunity here.
Yeah, there's definitely an opportunity here. We talk about it almost every week on how the Saints need to add someone, and if he's that guy, then hey, he's that guy. We'll see how much he has left in the tank. Very interesting. What other names kind of are you, kind of cocking your eye at?
The only one I definitely recognized was Terrell Burgess.
Yeah.
He was a third round pick of the Rams in 2020, a safety, and he's played for the Rams, Giants, Commanders, Bills. So obviously, he never locked down a starting job, even early in his career when he was a third round pick. He had a 16 game season, but it wasn't starting for the Rams, and so he's just bounced around since then. He's like appeared in one game since 2022.
Oh.
So long shot, but some NFL pedigree there, and there's probably a couple other guys whose names I didn't recognize that have similar stories, but Peoples Jones is the one with some real skins on.
Yeah, he's the one. The name that just initially stands out is, oh well, that's a name that's well known around the league. We talked about in that first segment how Zach Wood, kind of an older guy, but is the only person that can do what he does. They're bringing in Logan Klussman from Kansas for a tryout as long snapper, so we'll see.
We also have Brendan Bell from Villanova. Yeah. It's been a big week for Villanova. It's got a
huge
Pope.
Week for Villanova. Yeah,
he's got a Pope, and this guy, this guy played, if I'm reading this right, linebacker, safety, quarterback, and tight end.
Oh man.
So maybe he just fills out that maybe he plays two ways in rookie minicamp.
I don't know if he's going to be a Travis Hunter, but we'll see. Nah, I mean, that's the thing about these guys, man. They all have unique stories and unique ways to get, even to this point, a non-guaranteed.
Shout out to Langston. We got a tryout player from Langston. Good friend of mine, Ivory Woodward, began his college career at Langston. Good to see them getting recognized.
That's right. Shout out to Langston in Oklahoma, man. My cousin Torrin Bourne, he played up there. So Langston connections everywhere, man. We're going to hit a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll have more show. Keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
in Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants.
Welcome back for more NewOrleans.Football. It is now time for our next segment presented by Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. Mike, we talked about Donovan Peoples-Jones being a name that's, kind of known around league circles and whatnot, him coming in for a tryout. But let's talk about the receivers that, are for sure on the team. Who do you think leads the Saints this year upcoming in touchdown catches?
It's a shame that this question's so hard to answer. I'll defer to you because I've got two names that I was wrestling back and forth with. So I'll let you have the first pick on this one.
Okay. So I went back and looked at who led last year. I had an idea in my head, and it was right. It was Foster Moreau. He had 5. since, he's coming off of surgery and recovering still, I'm not going to peg him as the guy this early. But in that same position room, I'm going to go with Jawan Johnson. Two reasons. One, you're paying
He
him
was
for it.
He was one of my two.
Yeah. Two, you're paying him for it. He just got that big contract, so he has to show something. And I think, with his self-realization of, hey, you can't just come on at the end of the season when it's irrelevant. You have to stay consistent throughout the whole time. I think that's something that he's going to hone in and key in on throughout this season. Last year, he was coming back off of an injury, so maybe that affected it a little bit. But I think he has to be one of, if not the top guys to catch touchdowns for the Saints this season. And also, I mean, who else do you throw it to at certain points of the season? Who else do you throw it to because of the injury history of Chris and Rashid, which I definitely think that something is going to change with that because of the change in strength and conditioning staff, the way they work out, the way they, go about just handling their business. I think that has changed a little bit this offseason, but you never know. Another name I kind of sort of threw on this list as let me throw it out there just so I can go back in 5 months and say, hey, I told you. Brandon Cooks, maybe we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, last year, Foster, I mean, what a trivia question this would have been, by the way. We could have given like season tickets, name the top 2 leaders. Well, hold on. Do you even know who was second on the team in TD catches last year?
I do know. MVS.
Yeah, MVS. Unbelievable. Foster Moreau first with 5, MVS second with 4. So the candidates we're really talking about, Jawan had 3 last year. Olave had 1 last year. Yeah. Rashid had 3 last year. Alvin had 2 last year. Like, anybody could be the
Alvin
last year. Yeah, Alvin used to get TV catches, man.
Yeah, that's definitely who I probably should have put up.
Taysom had a 7 catch year. I mean,
wow.
You could place a lot of bets. You know who else you could place a bet on?
Who?
Not on roster yet. Like, I mean, it's Keenan Allen or Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, some guy could come in here and have a Foster-like season where you only catch 32 passes, but 5 of them are touchdowns. You lead the team. But look, the choice really came down to me that you got to bet on, that you got to list as the favorites, is Jawan. And Jawan has been healthy, and he only had 3 last year, and he only had 4 the year before that, but he obviously had 7 3 years ago, when he showed a lot of promise. And that was when he wasn't even playing as regularly. And you're right, they paid him.
Yeah.
He should be the biggest red zone target that they have. And then Olave. If Olave plays enough games, I mean, obviously that's been sort of the strange number that doesn't match the rest of his career. He only had 5 in 2023 and 4 in 2022, even though he was, having 1,100-yard seasons and leading the team in receptions and stuff. He's not a huge red zone target. We know he's been working on his contested catches. We know he's been working on strengthening. So that's probably my pick, and I think I would have picked him even if you hadn't gone with Jawan Johnson. Those are the guys I was debating on. Health is the big question for him, but if he plays even 13, 14 games, I think he should get to 6, 7 touchdown catches. At Rashid Shaheed, same thing. If Rashid Shaheed were to play a lot of games, I'd be surprised if he doesn't surpass 5 touchdown catches. But Olave would be my pick.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a no-brainer kind of answer, but the health thing is a big question right there, and you never know how things are going to develop. He's, talked about developing himself to be able to absorb some of those hits now. But yeah, Olave, of course, is the top receiver on the team. Let's put him up there. But I kind of went.
Well, you could say, of course, but what, the last 3 years, Olave's at 10 and Jawan's at 16. So, I mean, Jawan's at 14. So the last 3 years, Jawan 14, Olave 10. That probably makes Jawan the favorite.
Yeah, but also, too, the way I interpreted the question was, man, that makes me so much even more excited to see how Tyler Shuck, or Spencer Rattler, really just Tyler Shuck, kind of can play. See how he uses these guys.
Who does he like to throw to? Maybe Alvin catches 8 because he likes to throw to Alvin. Who knows?
Yeah. And that was a name that I just hadn't considered. I don't know why, but I just hadn't considered. But when you said it, it just clicked like, duh, Alvin is Alvin. So he can do kind of almost anything that needs to be done on the field. So yeah, I just the excitement builds. This question, it's doom and gloom because you go back and you reflect and you're like, man,
Yeah.
this is it. This is the list. MVS, who isn't even on the team anymore, who came in towards the end, is second on this list. But then you flip it and you look forward and you're like, hey, well, here's a new chance to find out.
And Kellen Moore's offense, obviously, we know he likes to put pressure on defenses, get the ball on the field. I mean, it should be friendly to Olave and Shaheed. It should increase their opportunity.
Yeah, that's where I was going. What does this new offense look like? What does this new quarterback look like in this offense to be able to distribute the ball to all of these guys? It's exciting times. It's exciting to even think about the prospect of just new, man. It's fun. It's fun. Haven't seen it in a while, so very encouraging. We're going to hit another break, and then when we come back, we'll have more show. Keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football.
I got hurt in a car wreck. Why should I get Gordon?
Because when you're hurt, you need money. And I fight for the people of Southeast Louisiana every day. I got a client who injured their neck in a car wreck, $250,000. Another client was hit by a big truck and needed back surgery. I got them $700,000, and they deserved every single penny.
That's what I'm talking about. Why wouldn't I get Gordon?
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, just call me, New Orleans. Get it done.
Call 504-800-8888.
Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant dropped some new apps, and they nailed every single one. The Southwest Chicken Egg Rolls, crispy, packed with flavor, and the avocado ranch seals the deal. Crab claws in a creamy Cajun sauce? Don't forget the French bread. And the fried chicken cracklings? Crunchy, sweet heat. You'll want your own plate. Open 7 days a week, and yep, they deliver late. Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant. Delicious food, superior service. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, where entertainment meets unparalleled customer service. From our days on the water to our new land experience overlooking the Mississippi River, our dedicated staff is here to ensure your visit is nothing short of exceptional. Whether you are coming or going, our well-lit parking lot and security team provide guests with red carpet treatment. Our security team keeps watch so you can focus on fun and fortune. From table to table, our attentive staff is here to serve up the ultimate experience. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back for more NewOrleans.Football. It is now time for the Get Gordon question of the day, presented by Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Today's question comes from Big O. Big O asks, do we see Jake Haener staying on the roster this year? You talked about it a little bit earlier in the show.
Sure.
If Derek Carr is down, where does that leave Jake Haener?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of two scenarios. There's Carr on the roster and there's Carr off the roster. But either way, he's the third young guy. I know Big O asked in the question, what if they go sign a veteran like Teddy Bridgewater? If Carr leaves, do they bring in a veteran? I don't necessarily know that they need to. What if Hunter Deckers impresses them and they want to develop him? I actually think that would be a bigger detriment to Jake Haener. But, man, you don't want to be the third developmental guy and the oldest of the three. I feel like if Carr is either on IR or released, then I think that Haener would stay as the third quarterback. I don't know that Haener stays as a fourth quarterback on the practice squad, though. I think it's a moot point, though, for now. I think no matter what, he gets all of training camp before they make this decision.
No, yeah, I definitely think he gets a shot in training camp to continue to develop. But I'm looking here, going back to our first question about the age of the players and, kind of the last hurrah. I forgot that the head coach is almost the same age as some of these guys. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah, even having Kellen Moore as
I think Kellen Moore will be here in 2026.
Definitely think Kellen Moore will be here in 2026. But I'm saying even having him as the head coach, he has guys under him who are specializing in this. But you talk about a veteran, he's like 4 years out of playing quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. So he has, traits that he can relate to.
So you're saying you just roll with two quarterbacks because the head coach can step in if needed?
No. That is not what I'm saying.
That's a smart plan. Kellen can pop in there and play.
Oh no, I think it's over. I think if you ask him if he could do it, I think he'll say no, that's done.
Yeah.
But it's way more safe to be the head coach than to be a quarterback. But no, I think with the wealth of knowledge and experience that he comes with, he can assist in anything that any of these quarterbacks have in their questions or whatever. But he has people in place to handle that. But I'm just saying that in terms of, yeah, you have 3 young guys. I don't think Jake is going to get it. I really don't even think Spencer is going to get a shot. They drafted Tyler Shuck.
Well, yeah, let's go back
pick.
to that question, because I was being pretty dismissive of Jake, thinking Spencer Rattler is already like it's Shuck versus Rattler, and the whoever doesn't win that competition is the backup. Do you think that's the approach, or do you think there's any way that early on Shuck's the number one and Haener and Rattler go back to compete for number 2? I mean, Haener had a really, really unfortunate first half of that Washington game. But it's an all new coaching staff now. Do you think the door is still open for him, or do you feel like that decision is done and he's third among the
I think it's done. I think it's done. Even though this is a completely new staff, this is new people. And I was kind of remiss at first to just straight up dismiss Rattler in contention for the starting job. But when you take a quarterback in the second round, come on, man. Like, you have to put him out there and see what he can do just up front in terms of making it a competition. I don't think it's the same thing like last year where they rotate days with the units and different things like that. I think Spencer has the stripes. He was out there for those games. He was out there for those games getting the experience, even though they didn't win any. He was out there in December in Green Bay taking those hits and getting those reps. Jake, he had his chance in the first half against Washington, and Rizzy, he pulled the plug. He pulled the plug at halftime and put Rattler in there to win that game. So I really think that point right there was it for the whole competition between Rattler and Haener. I think Spencer has came in and earned.
It was the double
Respect is
whammy.
the proper word.
It was the double whammy. It wasn't
Yeah.
just that Haener struggled so much against Washington. It was that gave Spencer his second chance, and he took advantage of it. Spencer did a lot of good things down the stretch to really widen that gap, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Respect isn't the right word, but it earned him a tier shift. He shifted on another tier from that to almost lose by 1 point to somebody
Tampa,
who played in Tampa, of course.
Well, he almost beat Washington in that game, but yeah.
And Washington, who ended up in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, hey, I think in my mind that this isn't even a question.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's how I went at it at first, but then I realized
it's a good exercise to think, because, like you said, these are all new people. They don't know these people.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't draft them. So the vision for these quarterbacks might be, I don't know. It's not known yet. It's not known yet. That's the fun part about it. It's not known yet. The unknown is known. That'll do it for this edition of NewOrleans.Football. We appreciate you all for stopping in today. Catch you next time.